Hello and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the Algebra 1 concept of rate of change. This is standard A.3B in the great state of Texas, and we are using item number 25 of the 2021 released STAAR test. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and take a moment to pause the video, work this problem out on your own, unpause it, and we will look at our answers together. So we have a graph of a linear function shown here, and we're looking for the rate of change of y with respect to x. All right, so this is another way of saying per, y per x. And when we see that per, or that with respect to, paired up with this rate, which is just another way of saying ratio, hopefully we're saying, all right, y with respect to x, y per x, what's the ratio of y to x? Well, we could represent it like this. Ratio can be represented as a fraction, but we're not just looking for y over x, we're looking at the rate of change. So I'm going to use the Greek letter delta, which looks like a triangle. Change of y over change of x. Now when I say that, hopefully you're thinking, well, that sounds an awful lot like rise over run, and if you are thinking that, you are correct. All this is asking for is the slope, and we know how to find the slope. So the rate of change is just asking you to find the slope, and it's, in this case, we've already got 2 points on the graph for us. Just look like we've got a y-intercept right there, but we don't necessarily need that. Let's just use the points they give us here. So it looks like we've got an x of 4, y of 1. Over here we got an x of negative 4, and then a y of 7. All right. So remember our equation for the slope, right, is going to be y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Doesn't really matter which one is x sub 1, as long as it's paired up with y sub 1. So I'm going to make my 4, 1, my x 1, and my y 1. My negative 4 is my x sub 2. 7 is my y sub 2. Always label them. And before we even start the calculations, I can already tell you these two are incorrect. Now how do I know that those two are incorrect? Look at the line. Moving from left to right, it's going down. So if it's going down, think of it like a thermometer. That means it's negative. If a line moves up, it has to be positive. So right now, I'm only stuck with B or D. So if I were to completely guess, I would at least have a 50% chance of getting it right. But that's still not high enough. Let's do the actual math. My y sub 2 is 7, minus my y sub 1 is 1. All right, and then my x sub 2 is negative 4, minus, and then I've got my x sub 1 is 4. Okay, so I've got 7 minus 1 is 6. Minus 4 is like adding, so that's going to be negative 8. So then if I simplify that, right, that's going to be negative 3/4. Now, we see that answer there. Some of you might have been wondering what happens if I would have switched my x sub 1 and x sub 2. Well, it really doesn't matter. Let's make that my x sub 2 and my y sub 2, x sub 1 and my y sub 1. All right, and we're going to use our same equation for finding slope. We just switched the values. So on my numerator, it's going to be 1 minus 7. And then on my denominator, it's going to be 4 minus negative 4. So watch what's going to happen. Those two become positive. 1 minus 7 is negative 6. 4 plus 4 is 8. So look at what happened the first time. My negative was in my denominator. When I flipped the x and the y values, my x sub 1 and x sub 2, flip those, my denominator is now positive. It's my numerator that's negative. And so that's the only thing that happens when you flip those two values, is the positive will flip from the negative, from the denominator to the numerator, and vice versa, because this also goes to negative 3/4. Right, and so we're looking at D.